Bram and Wisp picked their way through the ribs of a crashed alien craft, tracing corridors with chalk lines on metal. Pale daylight fell through a torn hull, and dust floated in the air. Morrow rolled beside them in his sloshing travel tank, humming a sea shanty offbeat. A shaky camcorder on a tripod blinked in the corner as if someone had staged a spooky shot and left it. Bram said he still thought clouds had names no one knew yet. Wisp tapped her tiny satchel and said maybe the clouds were not keeping secrets. Maybe they were waiting for better listeners. Morrow muttered that his horn could pick up a name if the wind would stop mumbling. 2 orchid-purple panthers slipped from the stacks of a makeshift library built in the ship's cargo bay. Orla and Dusk explained that a library ghost kept reshelving books in the wrong places, and it was ruining their catalog. They asked for help before the council inspection. A faint chill blew across the aisle and a book slid by itself. Orla said the ghost had taste but no accuracy. Dusk said if the ghost was going to help, it needed a shelving plan it could follow. They followed the drifting books to a table where call numbers had been scratched out and replaced with silly homophones. The errors made a pattern that sounded like jokes rather than mistakes. Morrow flipped through a weather almanac and squinted at the margins. He pointed out that the misshelving spelled out a chain of street puns in order. Morrow said this ghost had a sense of humor that needed editing. Wisp said someone was steering it, not haunting for fun. Around a junction hatch, 2 dim gray foxes worked with bundles of replacement plaques. Quill posed with a velvet cravat and dramatic tail, rehearsing a pun as he set a sign. Slate, expression unreadable, passed him a plaque from a utility sash. They joked about renaming streets to hide a financial record. A rolled receipt peeked from Quill's cuff. Quill said no one would find the payment if every corridor was renamed twice. Slate said the audit would get lost between Giggle Row and Snicker Alley. Bram watched from a catwalk as a lone butterfly drifted through a broken viewport. It fluttered past the fox's toolbox. Quill dropped his rivet gun and chased it with both paws outstretched. Slate hesitated, then trotted after him, forgetting the plaques. Bram said we just found their weak spot. Wisp said let's not waste it. Morrow murmured that even his horn could see that one coming. They huddled over a map and sketched a route past a greenhouse bay where butterflies gathered. Orla and Dusk agreed to restore correct signs while the foxes were distracted. Wisp noted the ghost reacted to orderly patterns. Morrow marked time in his weather diary, humming offbeat. Bram said we'll lead them to the greenhouse and fix the plaques behind them. Orla said we will keep the shelving straight once the corridors are straight. Dusk said the council would trust the library again if the labels matched the path. On their way, they passed a broken display about the city's odd traditions. It showed a crown awarded to a ruler chosen by the loudest sneeze, noted as a memory of a noisy festival in the craft's first settlement. Bram rubbed his beak and sneezed from dust, startling himself. Wisp laughed and covered his scarf with a cloth. Morrow said that sneeze could open doors if doors respected volume. Bram said maybe it could open shutters if we tie it to an old sensor. Hey there, thanks for watching their adventure inside the old starship. If you are enjoying it, please like and subscribe so we can keep fixing haunted libraries and untangling punny plots. Drop a comment that says slop so we know you found the butterfly clue. Your support tells the council we should map more corridors. They tested an old audio sensor near the greenhouse shutters and found it still responded to sharp sounds. Bram stepped back, squared his wings, and let the dust tickle him. The sneeze rattled the shutter, and a slit of sunlight opened over a row of nectar plants. A few butterflies stirred in the warm beam. Wisp said the sneeze switch still worked. Morrow said finally, a noble use for nasal acoustics. Back in the stacks, Orla and Dusk set up a test aisle with precise labels. The ghost nudged a book into place, then stopped when it matched a neat pattern. The temperature rose from chill to normal, and the book stopped wandering. The panthers looked relieved. Orla said it prefers consistency, not chaos. Dusk said we can give it a system it respects. At the central hub, Quill and Slate unpacked stacks of punny plaques, ready to rename the main arteries before the audit. A camcorder on a crate displayed a paused frame of grainy lights labeled as a ghost. Wisp spotted the rolled receipt in Quill's cuff and nudged Bram. He nodded and steadied his map. Bram said, "We have the motive and the method." Wisp said, "We just need timing." A misshelved ledger turned up in the library Dropbox, stamped by an outpost called Grindbroker. The ledger listed a payment for outsourced gameplay sessions on a distant console, masked as research hours. The puns in the corridors would break the audit trail by misdirecting inspectors. Wisp tucked the ledger into her satchel as evidence. Morrow hummed a minor chord. Wisp said, "This ties the money to their prank." Morrow said, "Pun laundering is a bold genre." They approached Quill and Slate by the greenhouse access. Bram held up the ledger, and Wisp pointed to the shutter sensor. He laid out their plan in plain terms. A sneeze would open the shutters, butterflies would flood the hub, and while the foxes chased them, the team would restore the proper names and hand the ledger to the council. Quill scoffed, but his eyes drifted toward a flutter at the window. Slate's gaze flicked to his game token. Bram said, "You can explain the payment after we fix the signs." Quill said, "Or you can watch me rename your exits to Exitential Dread." Bram inhaled the dusty air and let himself sneeze hard. The shutters rolled open. Sunlight poured in, and a cloud of butterflies rose like a slow wave. Quill dropped the ledger from his gaze and lunged after the nearest shimmer. Slate followed, leaving their plaque crate behind. Wisp and the Panthers sprinted for the signs. Morrow said, "Chase mode engaged. Please keep hooves and paws inside the ride." Orla said, "Grab the north run first." Dusk said, "I have the hub ring." And now a word from our sponsor. Arcology Global's AI-powered shoelaces remember your perfect settings, including the exact TV volume you love. Can't find that sweet spot between too loud and too quiet? Tie these laces and they'll sync to your favorite volume profile, whether you're in a creaky starship corridor or a cozy library aisle. They tighten, loosen, and even shush chat events. Get laces that keep your steps quiet and your shows just right. Then glide back into the story like nothing happened. With the foxes gone, Orla and Dusk replaced plaques along the hub ring in a steady rhythm. The library ghosts stayed calm as labels matched a restored map. Books settled and carts stopped drifting. Morrow logged clear weather in his diary and tucked a new bottle cap under a shelf for luck. Orla said, "The pattern holds." Morrow said, "The horn forecasts orderly shelving with a chance of relief." They wheeled the plaque crate to the council dais and set the ledger on top. Residents gathered under the patched skylight, murmuring as the found footage camcorder got bumped and spilled its stage tape of blinking lights. Wisp explained the payment trail, and Bram pointed to the restored map. The crowd's frowns softened into nods. Wisp said, "The streets are correct again and the ledger shows why they hid it." Bram said, "The audit can proceed without getting lost." Quill tried to spin a dramatic speech about creativity while edging toward an exit. Slate kept his gaze flat and calculated. Butterflies drifted in again from the greenhouse seam, and both foxes' eyes tracked them without subtlety. Guard stepped forward while the foxes wandered after wingbeats. Bram said, "You can finish your speech after the meeting, preferably in the butterfly garden." Slate said nothing and followed the color. Back in the library, the ghost stayed quiet while Orla and Dusk finalized the catalog. Wisp logged the corrected route so visitors could find the stacks without confusion. Morrow arranged his bottle caps into a tidy circle and hummed a victory bar one beat late. The air felt steady and warm. Wisp said, "Thank you for trusting us with your shelves." Dusk said the ghost was only asking for respect. On the way out, Bram and Wisp stood under the torn hull and watched clouds drift across the skylight. They returned to their disagreement with softened edges. Bram admitted some names might be beyond them for now, and Wisp said that was fine as long as they kept learning. They smiled and shouldered their maps. Bram said, "Next time we ask the clouds first." Wisp said, "And we listen harder." They passed the old sneeze crown again and left a clean note explaining the sensor for future crews. The found footage camcorder had been moved to a different corner as if someone was still trying to prank viewers, but the lens cap was on. Morrow logged a clear forecast and tapped his tusk against the tank rim like a bell. The craft felt less tangled. Morrow said, "Forecast. Low drama, high clarity." Bram said, "I'll take that." In a market corridor, vendors set out trays of bolts and herbs. A human Italian pizza chef in a flour-dusted apron cheerfully tossed dough under the skylight. The heroes walked past without a second glance, focused on their route. The dough spun higher while butterflies floated through the beam. Moros said, "Who ordered extra air with their crust?" Wisp said, "Keep walking. We're almost done." All the slop in this video was generated using AI. This note is here so you know what you watched was assembled with automated tools. If you found the story helpful or fun, please like, subscribe, and comment the word slop so we can keep making clear, honest adventures. Thanks for supporting careful maps, tidy shelves, and fair streets.